Okay, we are in Chapter 6, Section 1. This is Problem 1. Chapter 6 is probably the last chapter in college algebra. We're doing composite functions here. We're using these two graphs to do composite functions with. It's kind of like you find the value using one, you take that and plug it into the other. So they give you an x, you find a y, that y becomes an x, use that to find the final answer. So the first one is written as G composed with f of -1. I prefer this format in that it kind of helps me to realize if I evaluate the inside and then I can evaluate the outside. First thing I'm going to do is find f of -1. I go to the graph where x is -1 and I move till I hit the f graph. I hit the f graph at y. So I replace the f of -1 with a 1. And that's just reading from the graph. Now I take that 1, I go back and I'm on the x at 1 and I want to read up until I hit G. I hit G right here, and that y value is 6. So that would be the answer for the first little problem, A. For B, it's G composed with f of 0 or G of f of 0. Your first evaluation would be of f of 0. So you go, x is 0. It hits the f-axis at 0. So we're really talking about the point 0, 0 there. Replace f of 0 with 0. And then you are going to go, and I'm going to move this down just a hair so we can see everything at one time. All right. Now, if you are doing G of 0, here is 0, and you go all the way up and you hit it at 7. So that final answer is 7. Okay. Like I've got a blank page in here. C, here is f of G of -1. And what are we going to do? We're going to evaluate G of -1 first. Didn't write as much out here. We could write it in and say that that's f of G of -1. We find G of -1 first. G of -1. Go to -1, read up to G, and you pick up the value of 5. Then go back, go over to where x is 5, and then read up to f, and that value is 3. So 3 is the answer. In D, I did not type that out either, so let's put it in there correctly. And that would be f of G of 4. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to evaluate what first? You will evaluate the inside G of 4. So we go to 4, and then we're going to go up to G. Well, the y value is also 4. So the x was 4, the y is 4. So we replace G of 4 with 4 and f of 4. Go back to where x is 4, and this time just read up to the f. And 2 would be the answer there. Now that's composing functions, and you're using graphs to be able to do that.